Hello, listeners. Season 3 is now over and fully available to binge, by the way. But that doesn't mean that we're forgetting about you. Well, we're hard at work behind the scenes on Season 4, which is going to be great. The feed will be staying active this summer. I'll be sharing some of my favorite episodes from other podcasts, a couple of special TTE bonus episodes, and more exciting extra content. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Betsy Burris, a teacher educator and psycho coach. Every week, I podcast or write on Substack about using your emotions to feel better and teach better. You'll hear stories of educators as told by themselves or sent in and discussed with my co-host, Joe. We unpack it all, here on the feed and on Substack. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're starting with a rerun of the most listened to episode from the Teaching Through Emotions feed. It's called Handling Teacher Guilt. Are you being too judgmental of yourself? Do you feel guilty when you get annoyed at a fellow teacher or student? When you're just not in the mood? Do you label yourself as too judgmental when actually you're just taking care of your own needs? In this co-hosted episode, Joe and I unpack a teacher's struggle with feeling too judgmental, as she put it, after her classroom space was taken over. We explore how what seems like simple annoyance can reveal critical needs. We describe how a teacher moved beyond self-blame to embrace her emotions as signals that allowed for more intentional, connected teaching. This is by far your favorite TTE episode of all time, so it deserves its time to shine. Listen to get a refresh on these tips, or if you're new here and haven't listened to the episode yet, now's the time. You'll hear why personal space in a busy classroom is a real psychological need, why we mislabel valid annoyance, how to view conflict as data instead of a disaster, and much, much more. It's a validating conversation that you might just need to hear at this time of year, because it applies not just to classrooms, but to home life as well. This summer, and actually year-round, you can find me on Substack at teachingthroughemotions.com. Get in touch. Share your story. I want to hear from you. Now, without further ado, let's get into the episode. I really hope you enjoy it. Hello, Joe. Here we are for actually our first co-hosted episode of Season 3.
Bam. Bam. Back in action.
Very exciting.
We go. It is exciting. I'm pumped.
When this started, I confess I did not understand. I guess maybe that's how it all turned out to be. Well, such a mess.
If you're new here, welcome. I'm Betsy Burris, a teacher educator and psycho coach. Every week, I podcast or write on Substack about using your emotions to feel better and teach better. Sometimes you'll hear stories of educators as told to me or sent into the Teaching Through Emotions hotline, all of them discussed with me and my co-host, Joe Johnson. And sometimes you'll hear an interview with someone who offers an interesting perspective on teaching and learning. We unpack it all, here on the feed and on Substack. I'm so glad you're here. So in today's episode, listeners, you're going to hear Joe and me talk about a very simple, really short story that has so many fantastic lessons in it for teachers and parents and others. One of the lessons is about personal space and boundaries. That is, it's appropriate to feel irritated and other ways when your personal space, no matter how small or even public, as in a classroom, gets invaded. Another takeaway is that what you think your emotions mean is probably wrong, but there are ways to get them right. And finally, detachment is useful in multitudinous ways. Joe and I get into these thoughts. We ground them in the story that I tell. Again, this really simple story, but we hope you enjoy our conversation. We think it's really important for teachers to think about these ideas and apply them in their own lives. Let's get into the episode. I want to start by just mentioning something that I've mentioned, it feels like everywhere now, but this podcast, Teaching Through Emotions, won an award last month, the Women Who Podcast Award.
Amazing.
Pretty great. Just based on one season, it was an interview episode that won in the thought-provoking category. Point is, we're very excited. It's really great news and always nice to be able to call your podcast award-winning. And I think both you
Damn
and I are
straight.
really excited about getting this next season going. There's going to be a lot of episodes talking about a lot of teaching stories, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be all
wait.
academic year long. Yeah.
By the way, I just got back from a vacation where I took the family and my son's girlfriend came
Mhm.
along. She at some point asked a question about education, and things kind of went black. And by the time I woke up, like, I had been talking for like 9 minutes and Yannicka had been talking for like 7, and we're just like, oh my God, Haley, I'm so sorry. That's a can of worms. You're going to crack open education. We could go forever. That's
So
the kind
true.
of people we are.
Oh my God. I don't know that I like talking. Well, I love talking about psychodynamics too, but I love
Mhm.
talking about teaching. It's so fun.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this podcast. We get to do both. It's like, this is my happy
Chocolate
place.
and peanut butter.
Exactly. And thank you for being here, eating the chocolate and peanut butter with me, Joe. All right. So today's story, on the surface, it's pretty simple. It's about a teacher that I worked with many, many years ago, like one of the first TSGs I ever did, where she described herself as being, quote, too judgmental. She said she's just too judgmental. And I just wanted to ask you, what does that mean to you? What is too judgmental? A teacher who's too judgmental, what does that mean to you?
What springs to mind for me, and I think a lot of teachers have this problem, if you become a basketball coach, you were probably pretty freaking good at basketball, and if you become a teacher, then school was probably your jam. You were just all about it. You loved it. And it's hard for you to imagine somebody who doesn't. That is the first thing that pops into my mind, is
Nice.
that you can't think of someone who doesn't do homework in anything other than a sneering, kind of disdainful way, or someone who can't sit still and it's like, are you kidding? Look, we're learning stuff. How are you not engaged with this? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I could picture that kind of judgment. I could picture class-based judgment where somebody dresses, quote unquote, trashy all the time, or slouchy, or the way they sit, or the way they walk. You're just like, oh, come on, where's your self-respect? That kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah. Really great examples. All right. I'm going to tell you the little story that this teacher told me that was her example of being too judgmental. She said she got to work late one morning, and she apparently shared a classroom with another teacher. There were 2 desks in the classroom, apparently. And when she got to her classroom late, she found that the other teacher and a bunch of students were all gathered around her desk. And she hated it that they were there because she wanted to settle down in her own space. And the way she described it was she was too judgmental of them for doing what they were doing and wanted them to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And then, because she felt that she was being too judgmental of them, she blamed herself for being a bad person, basically too judgmental. Do you get it? I mean, her judgment was, you guys shouldn't be around my desk. I don't want you around my desk. Oh my God, I'm being so judgmental. This is my fault. I shouldn't be so judgmental.
Okay.
So what is it now? How do you understand too judgmental given that story?
Is she talking about herself? So she did not like the way they were not respecting what she considered her space.
Yes.
Even though she wasn't in it. And
That's right.
I don't know what, you're legally not allowed, at least in public schools, to be leaving stuff out unlocked that anybody could walk in and see. Right? And you definitely should not be leaving yourself logged in at your computer. So there should really not have been anything that they shouldn't see available to them on her desk. If she was afraid of them seeing that, that's kind of on her. This is, quote unquote, your desk, and this is, quote unquote, your room. But really, it's the desk where you work, and it's the room where you work.
And it's a public space.
Yeah, it really is a public space. If they had been sitting at her desk even, I could picture being annoyed at that. But there is another adult in the room.
Yeah.
It's not that there isn't. So now was she as upset with the other adult as she was with the kids?
I think so. I think her feeling was, as you put it, they were not supposed to be in her space. She wasn't in her space, and she walked into the room and saw that they had occupied what she considered to be her space and really hated it. I think she just felt thrown off by the fact that, I guess in effect, she had to kind of make her way through the mob to get to her seat. Right. And I think she mentioned that this was normal at the beginning of a day when she was there. So if she was at her desk, people came and just kind of chatted with her. And that, I guess, was acceptable. But the fact that they were doing it before she got there just made her feel, I think, invaded.
Yeah.
Again, I really feel as though you're right. She did not want them in her space when she wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was worried about their seeing something. I think it was more like a sense of ownership. Like, this is my space.
Yeah.
And so to me, it just feels like there is nothing wrong with needing your space to be unoccupied when you get to it.
Yeah. I think I feel the same. I have these little plastic animals on my desk that I use. The kids know the names for these animals in Spanish, and I use them in a lot of ways. I think kids just find animals really interesting, whether we want to or not. And whether you think you do or not, you do. If I tell you the name of an animal in another language and the name of anything else, a tool, you're going to remember that animal name far longer than the tool name. So I've got these little plastic animals, and they're irresistible. I have them. They're very cool. And I'll walk into my room. I'll dash out between classes as the kids are going in and out. And I'll come back in, and the kids are up at my desk holding them and looking at them. And my hackles go up. They do. Because it's like, I don't buy these with school funds, right?
Yeah.
These are mine.
These
When
are
I
mine.
retire, those are coming home with me. Like, those are going to be on my nightstand, and my wife is going to be rolling her eyes while I'm like, the snow leopard is chasing the ibex. Like, I love these things. And I feel conflicted about it because on the one hand, there's lots of good going on here. They feel comfortable in my room. They've been looking at them from afar, and now, now that class hasn't started, I don't have to be in my seat. I want to go get a closer look at this ibex. Those are good things. And as long as they're not pocketing them and they're not chewing on them and they're not drawing on them, it really says more good than bad. And at the same time, that's kind of mine. Keep your grubby paws to yourself.
This is the kind of important crux of the matter. And this is true for the teacher whose name I called her Kristen. There's something about our garden, what's ours, and the boundaries between what's ours and what's everybody else's, especially in a public space where, in order to lay out your space, you have to know what your space is because you need some sort of space that's yours, right? Even in a classroom or desk that's public. And what I think she was experiencing, what I'm sure she was experiencing, was this sense of invasion because she needed to feel some autonomy over some bit of space that she really needed to be hers. That's mine. And you're welcome in when I invite you. Like if I'm here and you want to come close to the desk and I feel as though I've got some control over this tiny little space that's mine, I'm happy to have you there. I can also say, no, you can't be here. But to not have the option of saying, sure, come swarm my desk because I was late to class. I think she got in there and felt like that tiny little bit of turf that she considers to be hers. It's a feeling. It's not like intellectual, as you say. Intellectually speaking, it's like, well, it's not mine. It's a desk. Lots of people sit there, whatever. But the felt sense there, the feeling of ownership and the need to have a space that was hers, really mattered to her. And so what happened to her was she walked in and felt this immediate sense of annoyance, I think, as you described it, and irritation that people were in her space and did not recognize for herself that she actually was experiencing a boundary violation. That's what she was feeling, that people had breached her garden wall and gotten in her garden and she didn't want them there.
Yeah.
Simple enough. Even if it means that they are comfortable with her, they're comfortable in her room, they're looking forward to seeing her, they're happy to see her. It doesn't really matter. Any of that stuff, the goodness of it all doesn't matter when the boundary is breached and you feel invaded. I think that's really interesting.
Did she express judgment over herself or over the kids more?
No. So what she did, this is also really interesting. This is the psychic move that she made. She felt irritated at those people for being around her desk and then immediately blamed herself for being too judgmental.
Interesting.
So she felt the irritation and annoyance and somehow decided that it wasn't okay for her to feel that, especially since she'd been late to school. So I think she also blamed herself for being late, but it seemed like kind of out of proportion here. She didn't think she had a right to feel annoyed at people for swarming her desk. Again, kind of on the face of it, it's just a desk. It's a public space. So what right do I have? It's just some animals, some plastic animals or whatever. What right do I have? Well, the point that I think is really interesting about this story is that it doesn't really matter what right we have. If, in fact, we feel the need for space that's ours, and we have this automatic reaction to it's being invaded, then that's worth considering.
Yeah.
Being considerate about, right? Like, I need this. So one thought I had about this was, did she ask for what she needed? Did she say, oh, you guys, can you just give me a second? I just got in, I'm late, I've got to settle myself, and then you can come back and swarm my desk? Or, for you to come in and say, you guys, okay, put the animals down. Glad you're petting them. They really love being petted now, or, whatever. Like, the important thing, I think, when our boundaries are invaded is not to, eviscerate ourselves for having a need, right? For wanting something, for needing the space to be respected, but rather to ask for what we need. I really need you guys to back off for a second just so I can kind of sit down and take a breath, right?
I think that's a skill that I'm still working on is where conflicts are not necessarily failures, where you say, well, in what way did I fail because we are at some kind of disagreement here about who should be doing what? Oh, that's got to be my fault. I'm the adult. I'm the one who brought this about. So how did I fail in making myself feel bad about this?
Right.
And it's not really a failure. You come in and you express, hey guys, don't be on my desk when I'm not here. There's some stuff on there that belongs to me, and I got things the way I like them. So yeah, just kind of leave that alone. I'm not going to go rooting around in your locker when you're not there.
Right on.
And I think it could be expressed in a way that is not especially trauma producing or angry, but annoyance is real and annoyance is often legitimate. I went to Chile once, and the guy who had the carpenter shop, he had put carvings that he had made. And one of them was a little 4-inch high bust of Salvador Allende,
Wow.
the deposed president who was killed in 1973. We struck up a conversation, and I said, what price would you accept for Salvador over here? And he said, oh, I don't make those to sell. And I said, no, I understand. I'm a teacher, a Spanish teacher. I would just love to have that. And eventually he sold it to me. And I had it on my desk for years. And I don't know where it is now. And it's the kind of thing that anybody could walk by and pocket. And I cannot put my hand in the fire and 100% say that some kid swiped it. I don't know that, but it was really dear to me.
Yeah.
And boy, that hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts. When that kind of thing is possible, then yeah, it's natural and normal for you to feel some annoyance that the kids are in your space, even as legally it's not your space. But then if your reaction is, well, somebody's upset here, therefore, I must have failed in my duty of keeping everything positive and happy all the time. I'm a bad person.
Right.
No.
Right. No, I mean, I would say annoyance is a signal. It's a symptom of something. I think of anger as being a sign that some boundary has been breached. And, boundaries are there because we need them to be there. However close to us or far apart, or whatever type of boundary it is. If it's my desk in a school classroom, that's the boundary. There's nothing wrong with the boundaries or the needs that we have. Let's just even call it the needs that we have. Kristen needed quiet time and space to get into her classroom. You needed your students to respect these objects that you have on your desk so that you could have them for as long as you wanted them. See, the thing that I think is so interesting here, and I think this is why Kristen is too judgmental, when she has a negative feeling, annoyance, irritation, she considers that judgmental as opposed to informative. So to me, irritation, annoyance is informative. And before you judge yourself for having the feelings, figure out what the feelings are telling you about what you need. And what she needed was quiet time. And as soon as you realize, oh, that's it. That's why I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed because these people are in my space and I really actually need them to be out of my space so I can start my day as well as possible, given that I was late. Which I own, I was late, but that doesn't mean I don't need this space around me so I can get my head together. There's nothing wrong with that need. And that's why if we can recognize what our emotions tell us we need, we can then ask for what we need, because that's the next step. The next step is, please don't touch my animals. You know, I lost one of these little sculptures once, and I can't find it. Every time I think about it, my heart breaks a little bit. So it makes me nervous for kids to be up near my desk. I love it that you love my animals. I love them too, but I just have this reaction that I can't deny. I'm not going to deny it, right? I really need you guys to either go around that desk over there or sit down, because I'm just going to take some space, if you don't mind. I'm going to breathe for a second. We can all breathe together, but I need to get my act together so I can get the day started. There's nothing conflictual about that. That's what I also wanted to point out. Nothing conflictual about saying, this is what I need. Thank you so much. I really hope you can help me get what I need. Right. And if people are like, no, fuck you, I'm not going to move away from your desk. Now there's conflict. But that's real conflict. That's conflict between someone who has asked for something that they need and someone who refuses, who's resistant. And that is also very interesting, right? Bring that back to me. I'm happy to talk about resistance to responding to each other's needs, to satisfying each other's needs. But until that happens, there's no conflict.
Yeah.
Right?
True. It reminds me of so many things. And I wonder if, I wasn't there, obviously, when this teacher did react, but I wonder if the reaction she had when she came in was stronger than she would have liked. And therefore, she feels judgmental about herself because she was already in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
She already, if you're imagining it, it's like, well, I get to walk in and all these kids who had to get out of bed on time are going to like, oh, ho, ho, look who, So if you spend the whole drive into work knowing, God damn it, this is what's going to happen. Yeah. And then you get an opportunity to snap at them.
Yeah, right?
Well, I may be late, but look what you're doing.
Right.
Then, that's a whole new level of things to unpack. Like, how and why did I react to this? Yeah,
right. It takes a lot of self-awareness. And I think that's why this very simple story is such an important one, because it points out, number one, that what we think is true about ourselves, I'm too judgmental, is just not true at all. That's not what's going on here. Right. What's going on is that you're not allowing yourself to feel what you feel. Kristen was denying her right to have a negative feeling and was unable to interpret the feeling accurately. The accurate interpretation is, oh, damn, I'm late, I'm a little panicked, I'm a little embarrassed, even ashamed, and my temptation is to blame them or to spew my feelings onto them, to make them feel bad about themselves. It takes a lot of self-awareness to realize all these things, but it is possible. It is absolutely possible. And so this story points to the necessity of teachers to realize, no, don't call yourself too judgmental. Just acknowledge that if we can unpack the story, we realize there's a lot going on here that could easily have been managed, handled with kindness and relief by just acknowledging your need.
Right.
But that's not easy. Right?
Oh, no, not at all. I still have this born from long ago where, for whatever reason, the situation I grew up in, everybody was kind of always looking for an excuse to snipe at the other person. You were always looking for a way to point out that the other had messed up. And you just walked around feeling, they're always stepping on me. They're always stepping on my self-worth, and you're really looking for a chance to get back at them. Like, but the second they mess up, man, I'm going to be right there. And that becomes a pattern. And then
it does.
When I'm older now and someone sees that I have made a mistake and points it out, I just get furious because it feels like it's this dart that you have thrown and has hit my soul. And it's like, no, everybody makes mistakes. I'm just, pointing out, so you must have forgotten that we did this because you did this procedure this morning, but it isn't necessary.
Yeah.
So did you forget that? It's like, so now I'm an idiot, am I? Like, no, that's not the case. Right. I'm seeing that you have made a mistake. No judgment. Just
exactly.
Just so we're on the same page. Oh, I guess you forgot that, right? Or is there something I'm not understanding?
Right.
Don't take things so personal. It's
so personally. It's really hard not to, though. You get it because we're structured to interpret the world to begin with just based on our bodies. But then we've got these psychic structures, right? The biological structures determine what we perceive, and our psychic structures determine both what we perceive and how we interpret what we perceive. So for you to have a mistake pointed out, you are structured to interpret that as malevolent. Right?
Yeah.
And that is just because you learned that was a survival tactic in your family of origin. And we all have these. Just as Kristen learned somehow that she wasn't allowed to have needs. She was supposed to be concerned about everybody else's needs. I think this is also a really important story because it brings us to, I suspect, a characteristic, a quality, a trait that a lot of teachers share, which is I can erase myself and I will take care of everybody else until I can't erase myself anymore. And either I burn out or break and just, scream at somebody. Maybe not my students, but maybe my own family. Right. So this notion that our patterns, as you pointed out, Joe, your pattern of interpreting any recognition of a flaw in you as, I use the word malevolent because there's evil there, right? The meanness. It's not just aggressive, it's mean and undermining. Your patterned response to the world was something you learned. And it's something you can unlearn, and you probably have been working on unlearning it. Just the fact that you're aware of it is the beginning. But damn, we all have these patterned responses to the world, these interpretations that stem directly from our psychic structures, from our experiences and what we were taught as kids. And as teachers, as parents, as people, we have to unlearn them if we're going to be in relationships that are healthy. Hey, listeners, if you want to support the show, if this episode or another episode gave you the inspiration to keep going this semester, if this show makes you feel seen, then please leave us a rating on the app you're listening from. Do you love it? Do you hate it? And bonus, if you leave us an honest review, you might hear it in one of our upcoming episodes. We'll read it out. We love hearing your miracle and horror stories alike, your thoughts on what we chat about, because it reminds us we're not just speaking into the void. And when you leave a rating or review, it lets other people who find it know this show is worth listening to. So thank you so much. And now, let's get back to the episode.
That's one of the things that I loved about your book and kind of the language that we started using around the classroom was recognizing that everything that everybody does is done for a quote-unquote good reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason they did that. Now, what they're doing is harmful to others. What they're doing is, whatever, illegal. But, from behind their eyes and given all the information and experiences they have had, this course of action makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that we have to accept it.
Exactly.
Oh, well, Jimmy gets to stab people, I guess. Like, no, Jimmy doesn't get to stab people. But think about it from his perspective. What tools did he bring to this situation? Instead of just saying, well, Jimmy, obviously, you can't do this bad thing that you've done. Everyone knows that you can't do this bad thing. This isn't helpful. Yes, everyone knows. But why is he doing it? What is he bringing to this interaction that is...
Yes.
So from his perspective, there was a reason for it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think of it as logical, not laudable. Right. We don't have to love the reasons, but they are logical, organismically logical. And in many cases, really sad, right? If it makes sense for someone to be a bully, honestly, that means there's shit in their souls. They have experienced bullying themselves. This is sad, sad news. It doesn't mean we just lie down and let them bully us. Right? It doesn't mean we accept the fact that they're bullies. It means, I would say, fight back, but I would say we get strategic. And it's really hard to be strategic with bullies. But in the case of Kristen, to say to Kristen, babe, that's judging yourself for wanting your space, for needing a certain kind of beginning to your day, and starting off angry at yourself or panicked because you kind of screwed that up by being late, doesn't mean that you no longer have the right to at least gather what you can to start your day off right and to ask other people to help you. Right? That's what I worry about teachers being not so good at. Just as you're saying, admitting that I messed up here, I'm late. I'm not ashamed. I don't have to be ashamed. It's just reality. This is what happened. It was a hard morning. I can't help that. But now what I need is, in order to start my day right, so I can be the best for everybody, I need X, Y, and Z. I'm going to ask you to help me with this. I mean, this is so helpful even in classes where teachers are teaching students and we're frustrated with the fact that they're not doing what we want them to do, or to ask them to help us kind of manage the frustration that we're feeling about their responses. Like, what's going on? Right?
Yeah. For me, anyway, it opens up a lot of interesting potential side topics, like how much of it is cultural North American outlooks on things. I don't ask for help very much.
Yeah.
And this may be a rural Midwestern,
I don't.
German/Norwegian thing too. But sometimes I get annoyed when people ask for very small things. Because, hey, could you pass me that? And I'm like, well, just go get it. What are you? Oh, no, but I can't go get it because I'm busy doing this thing. It's like, well, I'm doing something too.
Yeah.
Get it yourself. God, what a selfish attitude. But I always feel like asking for help is a failure. And that, I think I would live more comfortably if it weren't like that. Be reasonable. Don't just try to get everybody to do everything for you, but it's okay for you to recognize a way in which someone else could come to your aid and make things easier for you. That's not a failure.
And it's actually a gift to the person you've asked. I mean, I want to distinguish between asking for help. Like, I know for a fact that you are always willing to help other people when they ask you for it. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that you do it because you enjoy it. Like, you don't find it a burden at all.
No.
Right?
They wouldn't ask me if they didn't need it.
Right. And if they didn't believe that you could actually deliver.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So to ask someone for help offers an invitation for generosity, which is a good feeling. The example that you gave, though, I just want to distinguish. When someone is sitting next to you and you're working and they say, could you pass that? And they're just as capable of getting that as you are. I call that an imposition.
Yeah.
You're imposing on me now.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, because you actually could take care of yourself. You're not asking me for help. You're asking me to do your job. There's a difference.
Right.
So just want to say, I might be splitting hairs. Listeners, comment if you don't agree with me, but I see that as an imposition as opposed to, and again, your body will tell you, like, are you kidding me? You're sitting right there. Go get it yourself.
Right.
That reaction, I think, is meaningful. And you could parse that out too. Next time this happens, you can be like, wait a minute. Am I being unhelpful or ungenerous, or am I resisting being imposed upon? Interesting question to ask, because the distinction is really important. And then if you like, this is imposition, you can say, look, you are just as capable of getting up and doing it as I am. I'm not sure if there's another reason why you're asking me to do it. Do you feel like you need to be loved, or like, right? You could explore that if you want to, or you could just feel good about saying, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Because just as people ask you for what they need in fair, non-conflictual situations, we can actually be honest with each other about, oh, sorry, I can't. I mean, for Kristen to say, could you guys please just back off from my desk for a minute? There is no one in that crowd that could have said, no, I can't. I'm sorry. My feet are super glued to the floor. Right.
Yeah.
But for you to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't pass that. I'm actually busy because I know you can get the salt and pepper yourself. I think the negotiation between their needs and our needs, the boundaries, what we're willing to do, what we're not willing to do, and being able to talk about that feels like healthy human interaction. We're not always going to get what we want, but we can certainly ask, right? And then be ready to deal with what comes back.
Right. And hopefully come into the interaction in the first place with enough self-awareness to realize when you call yourself judgmental for that, then you're looking for a failure. Instead of that, recognize that, well, obviously I'm usually not late. Today I was late. I've rarely been late and walked in just feeling like I am completely justified in this. I am entirely in the right for showing up late. No, I
Mhm,
usually
mhm.
mess something up. Yeah, so I walk into it feeling kind of guilty and kind of
Exactly.
embarrassed and kind of nervous. Well, how does that affect how I see
Yeah,
things when I walk in the
exactly.
room? Be aware of that. It doesn't mean you're too judgmental. It meant you were already in a bad move, and something that is inherently irritating irritated you more.
More, exactly,
That's
because you
okay.
weren't stable. Right. And the judgmentalism really often, I'm being too judgmental of them. What she really meant was she was being very judgmental of herself. Or
Yeah.
rather than be judgmental of them, she turned it against herself, which is another thing we do, right? I don't want to be angry at you, so I will be angry at myself. I don't want to be disappointed
Yeah.
in you, mom, dad, teacher, but instead I'll be disappointed in myself and I will thrash myself for being a failure. When in fact, I'm not the one who failed me. I'm not the one who failed me. And I think teachers probably also know that in their positions as developmental partners, where they are responsible for a lot, that they can be blamed this way by their students. And as you say, Kristen might have walked in being like, they could actually attack me. Like they could blame me for being late. They're right. But see this kind of dichotomous, I'm late, therefore I'm bad versus I'm not late, therefore I'm good. That dichotomous thinking doesn't leave any room for the middle ground, which is I'm late and I feel terrible about it. And if you guys want to assault me for that, I'm ready to say, back off. Guess what? I know I'm late and I hate it. But what I need right now in order to, what we all need right now to kind of get to adjust to it all, it's interesting to watch ourselves really actually hurt ourselves, turn against ourselves when we could just be honest about reality. And that the honesty means recognizing, owning our shit. This is what I did. I'm late. This is how I feel about it. I don't want you guys around my desk. There's no judgment at all. This is how it is. And so I'm now going to respond to what I'm perceiving as reality by saying, okay, so here's what I need in order for me to be my best. But instead, she undermined herself by viewing herself as being at her worst. I'm so judgmental.
Yeah.
There's
like
self-loathing there now.
Right. It's like the
And
guy
that's just
whose football team loses, so he kicks his dog.
Right.
And he kicks his dog because he can't kick the Pittsburgh Steelers. And she kicks herself because she can't go back in time and make herself not be late. There's no way to undo that thing.
Yeah.
So, here's how I failed. That's what I'll be angry at.
But in this
Cut
case, I'll be
yourself some
angry at
slack.
me and I'll rip myself up because I'm this bad person. Because
I'm
I
happy she
had
didn't.
very normal feelings.
Yes. I would rather she turn it on herself than on the kids.
Yes. I guess. So here's maybe we moved into the axiom stage because it just occurs to me. Don't turn it on anybody. Right?
Yeah.
Acknowledge your feelings and figure out what they mean because they are accurate messengers about what the hell is happening in reality out there and in here. And so if teachers and anybody else can actually start honoring their emotions, noticing them. I say to my clients all the time, just notice. Noticing is enough. They can be like, oh my God, I have to change. I have to do this differently. No, just notice. What does it feel like not to do it differently? What does it feel like to do it differently? Noticing what's going on inside themselves first and foremost, and then being curious about it. And then feeling some confidence because you have someone like me to talk to, or you have a podcast like this to listen to, have some confidence that those feelings might have meanings that you actually have no idea of. Because you're structured to read them in a certain way. That, again, no blame, but damn, girlfriend, bring it to me. I will help you unpack that emotion and turn it into something that's much more operationalizable, much more actionable, something you can actually do good with, both to preserve your own dignity and self-love. A teacher who's feeling self-loathing from the get-go on a school day is much more in danger of taking it out on their kids than a teacher who's like, no, I'm good. And I trust the world and I trust myself. And look how responsive you guys are when I have a need. And I'll show you how responsive I am to you when you have a need, right? That's what this kind of work, that's the kind of difference it can make for teachers and for parents and for anybody else.
It reminds me of like when you're getting ready to go out for the, work day or for cocktails or whatever, and you use a mirror. You look in the mirror to see how you look. Because in the mirror reproduces what someone standing twice the distance from the mirror would see if they were to look at you. And without the mirror, you don't know how you look. So thankfully, when it comes to clothes, we have mirrors. But when it comes to our own behavior, there's no behavior mirror. You can't take a glance and see from outside of my own head what does this look like? And if you could, you'd probably give yourself a much bigger break. But that's, you're approaching that when you do get good at noticing the circumstances, noticing your own reactions to them, and trying to look at things as a reasonable reaction given all the information that you have.
Exactly. So maybe your axiom is something like, find a mirror for yourself. And one word I would use to talk about that would be detachment. The kind of detachment that allows you to have, in the field of psychotherapy, we call it the observing ego. I don't like the word ego. It's so loaded, it doesn't mean anything anymore. But the observing self, being able to observe yourself.
Yeah.
Being able to step back from an interaction and start describing it as reality in terms of your perceptions, and then recognize that your perceptions, your interpretations are also data, but they are very likely going to lead you astray, especially if you're activated or irritated or under stress. So to describe your perceptions, to describe reality as you saw it, and then to distance yourself enough from it to also notice how your interpretations cloud your judgment about the event, that detachment is a version of a mirror. And then even better, if you can get into a support group or work with someone who can actually help you make sense of the data, then it's really, you've experienced it, I've experienced it, it can be miraculous. And I feel in a way that this interpretation of Kristen's response to her first thing in the morning irritation, it was kind of miraculous to point out to her, darling, it's not that you're too judgmental, it's that you needed something that you weren't getting, and that you did not know either that you could get or that you could ask for, and didn't know how to ask for it to begin with, because you're so unconscious and so stuck in this, what I would call a psychic rut, that you immediately interpret negative emotions about the reality out there as too judgmental, and therefore you blame yourself for having them.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of turning the mirror on yourself and taking a step back and saying, oh, I have this emotion. Interesting. Right. What might this mean?
Yeah. Outside stimuli that are physical inform you of what is happening outside of you, and you don't blame yourself for those. Like, oh, my face is cold, I'm a failure. No, that's how you know that it's cold outside.
Great,
and
right?
Like, oh, I walked in here and the kids were doing a thing and it annoyed me. Oh, I'm a failure. No, that's an alert system that something of yours is being trampled on a little bit here. And, you could react to that violently, or at least with emotional violence. You shouldn't. If you do, that's going to bring along some other consequences. But you can avoid that if you can detach a bit and say, ooh, I'm seeing an irritating thing and I'm already activated because I'm irritated with myself. So let's try to get through this without responding to all the emotion. And then later on, not yell at yourself for being irritated.
Oh, that's so great, Joe, because detachment means so many things. It means noticing, labeling the emotions. It means wondering about them. But it also means breathing, like deciding to step back from your automatic reaction, to stop yourself from reacting and to breathe so you can get through the moment. And also realizing that because you have this detachment and awareness and you've already gathered some data, you can bring it home and talk to your spouse about it, or write in your journal about it, or talk to your therapist about it, or talk to your psycho coach about it, or bring it to your support group, right? The value of detaching is so multitudinous because it gives you so much power. It empowers you to be a good human being, even when you are feeling a way that you may not want to feel and you don't completely understand, but you recognize is meaningful, and you give yourself a break so that you can deal with it later, right? So that you don't do the wrong thing based on the emotion because you think you know what it means. You don't. Almost a guarantee you don't, unless you're really good at my boundary's been violated. I feel invaded. Okay, now I can, right? You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a powerful, you said this at the beginning of our session of this podcast. You said, this is a hard skill. It's a really hard skill.
Totally.
That's what it is. We're just kind of fleshing it out. It's a really hard skill, but it's absolutely life-changing to develop
I don't know if I've ever thought of it this way before, but the clouds of whatever state you're in when you walk into a room because, you were late, or because your cat just died, or because whatever. Think of those as impairing our judgment in the same way that, hopefully you're not doing this, but what if he walked into the room drunk?
Yeah, right.
Your judgment is impaired, or they'd been hit with a tranquilizer dart, or, that's not the usual them that was making those decisions. And it's the same when you're altered emotionally. That's not the cold, rational you. You're seeing through a fog.
That's right. And you can be seeing through the fog of fear of a student, or disappointment in an administrator, or anger at a colleague, or anxiety about a parent, or the very emotions that come with teaching can create a fog.
Totally.
I'm not saying this is super easy. I'm just saying it's possible, and it makes a difference if teachers can at least own the fog. This is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on, right? And then get somewhere to get help to clear the fog by understanding it.
Yeah.
And then based on the understanding, trying experiments that teach you that, oh man, this understanding really makes a difference.
Right.
It makes a difference in my relationships with everybody because I'm not acting out uninterrogated emotions and responses that I think I understand, which I really don't.
And there's so little coaching in this area that happens for teachers, really none.
Right. Right. That's what we're doing. That's the key here. And this is probably a great place to end, because I don't want to beat this dead horse, but it was such a simple story, right? And we got a ton. There's so much to say. I hope that you listeners are feeling like this was valuable. It was very psychoanalytic, very psychodynamic. We were kind of getting into the weeds of how we function psychically. But the point here is that this is how we function psychically, that Kristen, in this tiny moment, did a number on herself. And I personally, my work is devoted to helping teachers stop doing those numbers on themselves. And if this story and the way you, Joe, so wisely helped unpack it can help teachers stop and think, wait a minute, next time I decide I'm this or that, I'm going to stop and question that. Or how about this? I'm going to call the Teaching Through Emotions hotline, 413-239-4158, and share this response that I had so I can hear Betsy and Joe talk about it, take it apart a little bit and explain maybe why I'm having this reaction. Like I said, 413-239-4158. Call us and tell us about whatever number you're pulling on yourself, because we want to hear it and possibly think through it for your sake and others.
We've been there, and we know that there is not enough in the way of resources out there to help teachers through these emotional moments. There's 100 of them a day, and if you let them pile up and just think of yourself as like 100 little failures, you're not long for this profession.
Exactly. Burnout.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're here to commiserate.
Yep. And help.
And
Absolutely help. So thanks for listening, Joe. Thank you. Once again, super awesome to talk with you. You add so much to these conversations. I love hearing your thoughts and experiences.
I love having these conversations, and Betsy called me wise. I feel so proud.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
man.
helping me, Joe.
Of course. I love
See
to
how you
do
don't
it.
Mind? So you ask me to help you sometime, and I'll love to do that.
One of these days, it's going to happen.
Days.
All right, Betsy.
All right.
See you soon.
Bye. TTE is a Podvision production created and hosted by me, Betsy Burris, and co-hosted by Joe Johnson. Production and audience development support from Julia Androkaya and Andrea Koskai. Crucial editing by Brad Wells. And the music, which makes me smile and dance every time I hear it, by Tom Burris of Jabbering Trout. Thanks one and all. If you like this episode, text it to a friend. And if you haven't already, sign up for my Substack, where you can become a paid subscriber and get all kinds of goodies, including exclusive podcast episodes that will change your life. That's teachingthroughemotions.com. Thank you for listening.
It's all true.